Wake up. Nobody's going to warn you when it's too late. By the time a crisis lands on your doorstep, whether it's a supply chain collapse, a regional disaster, a power grid failure, or something far worse, the window to act has already slammed shut. The shelves will be empty. The lines will be miles long. And you, standing in your kitchen, staring at 3 days' worth of food, will realize with a cold, sinking dread that you were never prepared at all. 3 days. That is the catastrophically thin margin of survival sitting in the average household right now. 3 days before the food runs out. 3 days before desperation sets in. 3 days before everything you assume was stable begins to unravel. Most people don't know this. Most people don't want to know it. But you clicked on this, in which means some part of you already senses the truth. The foods that will genuinely protect you and your family are not what you'll grab off a panic-cleared shelf in the final hours. They're not the flashy survival kits sold online for £100. They are quiet, unassuming items, many of which are probably already in your home right now, capable of sitting on a shelf for 5, 10, 30, even hundreds of years without spoiling. We've ranked 22 of them, from critically useful to utterly legendary. By the time you reach number 1, you may be asking yourself a question that has no comfortable answer. Why did no one ever tell me this before? Let's begin, and let's not waste a single second. Number 22, Hardtack, the forgotten survival bread before supermarkets, before refrigerators. Before any of the modern infrastructure you are dangerously dependent on right now, there was Hardtack. Sailors crossing oceans for months at a time lived on it. Soldiers endured entire campaigns on it. And here is what should frighten you. They knew something about long-term food storage that most of the modern world has completely forgotten. Hardtack is nothing more than flour, water, and salt baked bone dry into a dense, rock-hard cracker. That extreme dryness is exactly what makes it extraordinary. No moisture means no microbial growth. No microbial growth means no spoilage. Sealed properly and kept away from humidity, Hardtack can remain edible for decades, possibly longer. You can make it yourself for almost nothing. It requires no special equipment, no preservatives, and no refrigeration. Soak it in broth or water to soften it, wash and it becomes a calorie-dense base for any meal. In a prolonged emergency, bread, with the single most psychologically comforting food in Western culture, will be the first thing to disappear. Hardtack means you never have to go without it. That is not a small thing. Number 21, dark chocolate. The morale weapon. Stop dismissing this. Right now. Dark chocolate with 70% cocoa or higher, stored in a cool, dry environment, can remain in excellent condition for 2 to 5 years, and that shelf life extends significantly in ideal storage conditions. But longevity alone is not why it belongs on this list. In a sustained crisis, psychological deterioration is one of the most dangerous and least discussed threats people face. When the monotony of eating the same functional but flavorless food every single day creates a slow erosion of morale that is genuinely dangerous. Studies from military field operations confirm it. Troops given small comfort items, including chocolate, showed measurably better psychological resilience under stress. Dark chocolate also provides real nutritional value. Magnesium, iron, antioxidants, caffeine, and theobromine for alertness. A small amount delivers a meaningful caloric contribution alongside mental relief that nothing else on this list can replicate. Never underestimate what a single square of chocolate can do for a person's will to keep going. In the darkest moments, morale is survival. No, 8 or 20. Apple cider vinegar. The multi-tool in a bottle. Every single bottle of apple cider vinegar sitting forgotten at the back of kitchen cupboards across the country represents a missed opportunity. Here is the truth about this liquid. It does not expire. Its high acidity creates an environment fundamentally hostile to bacterial growth. A bottle bought a decade ago is functionally identical to one purchased yesterday. But what should genuinely alarm you is how many uses this single item covers in an emergency scenario. It is a food preservative. Vegetables submerged in it extend their usable life dramatically. It is an antimicrobial cleaning agent for surfaces when commercial cleaners are unavailable. It can soothe digestive distress, which becomes rampant during dietary disruptions. It works as a hair rinse and skin treatment when hygiene routines become impossible to maintain normally. In a world where every item in your emergency supply needs to justify its physical space, Apple cider vinegar earns its place more thoroughly than almost anything else. One jug, dozens of applications, zero expiry date. If you don't have several bottles stockpiled right now, you are already behind. Number 19, baking soda. The silent workhorse. Baking soda has an indefinite shelf life when kept sealed and dry. That alone qualifies it for this list. But what most people dangerously overlook is the extraordinary range of problems baking soda quietly solves in an emergency context. It is a leavening agent that allows you to bake bread and flatbreads without yeast, critical when commercial yeast becomes unavailable. It is an antacid for digestive discomfort and acid reflux, which intensifies dramatically under stress and dietary changes. It neutralizes odors when hygiene becomes compromised. It can be used as a rudimentary toothpaste when dental supplies run out. Mixed with water, it becomes an effective wound rinse for minor injuries. The cost is negligible, the storage footprint is tiny, and its utility sprawls across cooking, medicine, hygiene, and cleaning in ways that make it one of the most genuinely undervalued items in any serious preparedness plan. You need it on your shelf, not someday, now. If this is waking you up, like, comment, and subscribe. This information needs to reach more people. Don't keep it to yourself. Number 18, white rice 30 years in a bag. Every honest conversation about long-term food security has to begin here. Once you understand exactly why white rice behaves the way it does, you will never look at a bag of it the same way again, and you will feel a creeping unease about how little of it most households are storing. The milling process that turns brown rice into white rice strips away the natural grain oils. Those oils are the primary biological mechanism behind rancidity and decay. Remove them, and you remove the expiry clock. Seal the rice in airtight Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and you halt the remaining spoilage pathway, bacterial growth, by eliminating the oxygen bacteria required to function. The result is a staple food that can sit on your shelf for 30 years or longer without losing safety or nutritional value. Archaeologists have confirmed this. Ancient rice stores recovered from historical sites were still viable. And throughout human history, across civilizations, across continents, across centuries of disruption and conflict, rice has functioned as both currency and lifeline. You need to be deeply uncomfortable with the idea that most people own perhaps 2 bags of rice at any given time. In a serious, prolonged emergency, that is not a supply. That is a starting point. Build it now before you need it. Number 17, ramen noodles, 10 years of fast calories. Before you dismiss this as student food unworthy of a serious list, here are the actual numbers. Stored properly in a cool, dry environment, ramen noodles remain completely viable for up to 10 years. A full decade of fast, ready-to-eat carbohydrate energy, requiring nothing more than hot water, available for pennies per serving. The science behind its shelf life is not complicated. Ramen contains almost zero moisture, and its airtight packaging prevents the humidity that allows microbial growth to begin. Those two factors working together create a 10-year preservation window without any special storage equipment. There is one critical detail most people get dangerously wrong. The foam cup versions do not hold up. The cup material degrades over time and contaminates the contents. For serious long-term storage, purchase flat brick-style packets and transfer them into sealed airtight containers. That single step protects them from humidity infiltration and pest access, and it preserves that decade-long window fully. No, ramen will not win any nutrition awards. But when your priority is calories, speed, and zero complexity, it delivers without question. No. It is 16. Canned vegetables, hidden lifelines. Nobody is excited about a tin of green beans. That is honest. But the moment you try to imagine feeding yourself and your family 2 weeks into a supply collapse, when fresh produce has vanished completely from every available source, that unremarkable can transforms into something that cannot be replaced or reproduced on short notice. The canning process is a form of suspended animation. Heat sterilization and vacuum sealing halt biological decay from the moment the lid is crimped shut. Most canned vegetables remain safe and nutritionally solid for 5 to 10 years, and often substantially beyond their printed dates when stored in cool, stable conditions. Here is the detail that should genuinely shock you. Why? Because almost nobody talks about it. The liquid inside every can of vegetables is a critical resource in water. Scarce emergencies. That cloudy, unremarkable brine is hydration. It contains dissolved minerals. It can be used to cook grains and add flavor to otherwise bland meals. Canned vegetables do not just provide nutrition, they provide water, flavor, and fiber from a single sealed container. That is extraordinary value in a compressed package. And most households own perhaps 5 or 6 tins right now. That is not enough. Not remotely. No. 15. Honey, 3,000 years and still perfect. There is a jar sitting in the Cairo Museum. Inside that jar is honey. It is approximately 3,000 years old. It is still safe to eat. If that does not stop you in your tracks, nothing will. What makes honey chemically unique? What separates it from literally every other food on this planet is that it has no biological mechanism for spoilage. Its water activity is so low that bacteria cannot survive in it. Its natural acidity, primarily from gluconic acid, creates a pH environment hostile to microbial life. A properly sealed jar of pure honey does not decay. Not in a decade, not in a century, not in 3 millennia. Beyond its astonishing preservation properties, honey has served across cultures and centuries as a wound dressing agent, a sore throat remedy, a digestive soother, and a preservative for other foods. In an emergency where medical supplies become limited, honey quietly covers multiple bases that nothing else in your pantry can. And that one practical note that could save you from a costly mistake: crystallization is not spoilage, it is physics. A warm water bath returns it to liquid form without affecting a single one of its properties. And in a context where meals are becoming psychologically grinding and repetitive, a spoonful of honey does something to the human spirit that cannot be measured in calories. Buy it, store it, understand what you have. If this is waking you up, like, comment, and subscribe. This information needs to reach more people. Don't keep it to yourself. Number 14. Lentils. 30 years of protein. Small, cheap, unglamorous, and possibly the single most underestimated item in any food security strategy. When stored dry in airtight containers, lentils remain nutritionally viable and fully safe to eat for up to 30 years. 3 decades. With nothing more than a sealed bucket in cool, dry storage conditions. But survival longevity is only one dimension of what makes lentils so critical. In a prolonged emergency, fresh meat access will be among the first things to collapse. Refrigeration fails. Supply chains break. Hunting and fishing are not reliable alternatives for most people. In that context, lentils become not just a protein option, they become the primary protein option. And they deliver, loaded with plant-based protein, complex carbohydrates, dietary fiber, and iron, all in quantities that genuinely sustain human health over extended periods. They also cook faster than virtually any other dried legume, which matters enormously when fuel availability becomes a genuine concern. And their near-neutral flavor profile, dismissed by many as blandness, is actually a profound practical feature. They absorb surrounding flavors completely, becoming whatever you need them to be. A spice soup, a grain bowl, a hearty stew, a savory patty. 30 years on a shelf, exceptional nutrition, and they adapt to whatever ingredients you have left. There is almost no excuse for not having a substantial supply of them right now. Number 13, sugar, the preservative most people ignore. Almost everyone categorizes sugar as a comfort item, a baking ingredient, a coffee addition, something that belongs in normal life but has no real role in a serious emergency plan. That framing is dangerously wrong, and it could cost you. Pure white sugar, kept dry and sealed away from moisture, lasts indefinitely, not 5 years, not 20 years. Indefinitely. It does not break down. It does not lose sweetness. It does not become toxic or unsafe. Like salt, it simply waits for however long you need it to wait. But the truly critical thing most people have no idea about is sugar's role as a natural food preservative. This is not incidental. It is the foundational principle behind jams, preserves, and syrups that remain shelf-stable for months without refrigeration. Sugar creates an osmotic environment that draws moisture out of bacteria, effectively killing them. When refrigeration becomes unreliable, sugar transforms from a sweetener into a preservation tool, one that can extend the life of other food items in your supply. And when your meals have become functionally identical for the 5th consecutive day, the psychological relief of something sweet is not trivial. It is measurably important to human endurance under stress. Never leave sugar out of an emergency plan. It does far more than most people realize, and it does it forever. Number 12, salt. The most important word in history. There is a reason the word salary derives from the Latin word for salt. There is a reason salt shaped trade routes, fueled empires, and determined which civilizations survived and which collapsed. Salt was not just seasoning, it was civilization's primary food preservation technology for most of recorded human history, and its power has not diminished one bit. The most urgent thing to understand about salt for long-term storage is simultaneously the simplest. Pure salt does not spoil, ever. Kept dry, it is chemically stable indefinitely. No oxygen absorbers needed, no mylar bags, no special conditions. It simply exists, and unchanging, ready. But in a survival context, salt's value extends far beyond flavor enhancement. Salt draws moisture from food and creates conditions inhospitable to bacterial growth. It is the mechanism behind curing meat, brining fish, and fermenting vegetables. All preservation techniques that remain critically relevant when modern refrigeration is no longer available. In a scenario where your supply must last weeks or months, salt does not just season your food, it actively extends the life of everything else you have, and physiologically, salt is non-negotiable. Your body requires sodium for fluid balance, nerve transmission, and muscle function. That is not preference, that is biology. Depletion of sodium under physical stress is a medical emergency. Store plain, non-iodized salt in quantity, whereas the additives in iodized versions can degrade over time. This is not an item you can afford to understock. If this is waking you up, like, comment, and subscribe. This information needs to reach more people. Don't keep it to yourself. Number 11, white vinegar. The item you already have and don't appreciate. Almost every household in the country owns white vinegar. Almost none of them understand what they actually have. It sits in the back of the cabinet, used occasionally for a salad dressing or a cleaning task, and given almost no thought. That is a costly mistake. White vinegar does not expire. Its chemical structure, built around acetic acid, makes it inherently and permanently self-preserving. Bacteria cannot grow in it, mold cannot develop in it, its flavor does not drift or degrade. A bottle bought today and a bottle purchased a decade ago are functionally the same product. There is no other common household item that can make that claim with the same certainty. But the real argument for stockpiling white vinegar is its extraordinary range of utility in a constrained emergency environment. It is a food preservative. The entire science of pickling is based on it, allowing vegetables to be safely stored for months without refrigeration. It is an effective antimicrobial surface cleaner when commercial products are unavailable. It is a meat tenderizer, a fabric treatment, and a mild insect deterrent. In a context where every item in your storage must justify its space and weight, white vinegar justifies it more completely than almost anything else. Buy several large jugs. Right now. Today. No. Tenor powdered milk. 20 years of nutrition. Powdered milk has a reputation problem, and that reputation is leading people to dangerously overlook it. Yes, it is not fresh milk. Nobody is pretending otherwise. But let's look honestly at what it actually delivers, because the gap between its reputation and its reality is enormous. Non-fat dry milk, sealed correctly and stored away from heat and moisture, can remain fully nutritious and safe for up to 20 years. 2 decades of consistent access to calcium, protein, vitamin B12, and vitamin D, all nutrients that become critically difficult to source when fresh dairy supply chains collapse. Add water and you have functional milk ready to use in cooking, baking, coffee, cereal, soups, and sauces. The flavor difference from fresh milk is real and worth acknowledging honestly. But in a genuine emergency, that distinction stops being relevant. What matters is nutrition, calories, and availability. On all 3 counts, powdered milk delivers without compromise. One step that most people skip and absolutely should not. After opening a package, transfer the contents immediately into a sealed mylar bag or airtight container with an oxygen absorber. That single measure meaningfully extends how long your supply remains at peak quality. 20 years of reliable nutrition, 0 refrigeration required, more kitchen utility than its reputation suggests. If you are not storing it, you are leaving an enormous nutritional gap in your plan. Number 9. Instant coffee, the most underrated survival item on this list. This might sound like it doesn't belong. It might sound frivolous compared to protein sources and calorie-dense staples. It is not. The claim being made here is that instant coffee may be the single most psychologically important item on this entire list, and that claim is based on something far more substantial than personal preference. In a prolonged disruption, the obliteration of normal daily routines is one of the most destabilizing forces people face. Every anchor point disappears, every familiar ritual vanishes. The psychological toll of that disappearance is vastly underestimated by people who have never experienced it. A cup of coffee, warm, caffeinated, familiar, is not just a beverage. It is a signal to your nervous system that some small piece of normalcy still exists. That signal matters more than it sounds. Practically, if freeze-dried, vacuum-sealed instant coffee remains fully potent for 20 years or more. It requires nothing but hot water, no equipment, no filters, no grinding. Under 2 minutes from start to cup, the caffeine provides real functional benefits: improved alertness, enhanced focus under cognitive stress, mild appetite suppression that can help stretch food supplies during lean periods, compact, lightweight, long-lasting, and the one item that sits at the intersection of emotional value and functional utility more completely than anything else on this list. Leaving it out of your emergency supply is a mistake you will regret the moment you face a morning without it. If this is waking you up, like, comment, and subscribe. This information needs to reach more people. Don't keep it to yourself, no. 8. Bouillon cubes, the smallest item with the biggest impact. Stop. Don't scroll past this one, because this is the entry that most people underestimate the most, and it is one of the most important practical insights on this entire list. Imagine day 4 of eating the same plain bowl of rice and lentils. You are fed. Your body's getting calories and nutrients. You are not starving, but something inside you is wearing down in a way that has nothing to do with physical hunger. It is the psychological weight of eating identical, flavorless food on repeat. In extended emergencies, food fatigue is one of the most documented and least discussed causes of psychological deterioration. It erodes morale, saps motivation, and makes an already difficult situation feel unbearable. Now dissolve a single bouillon cube into hot water and stir it through that bowl. What was functional becomes genuinely satisfying. What was a daily chore becomes something approaching a meal. The calories haven't changed, the nutrition profile is nearly identical, but the entire experience of eating has transformed. Bouillon cubes are concentrated flavor, compressed into a package that weighs almost nothing and takes up almost no space. Stored properly, they remain usable for 5 to 10 years or more. They transform the eating experience of every grain, every legume, every canned vegetable in your entire supply. For essentially zero additional cost, weight, or footprint, they make everything else better. This is one of the smartest investments in any emergency food plan and one of the most consistently overlooked. May do not make that mistake. Number 7. Oats. 30 years of breakfast. Oats look completely unimpressive. They seem like the boring, unremarkable backdrop of everyday morning routines. Not something worth thinking seriously about in a survival context. That dismissal is a costly mistake, because when you examine what oats actually deliver, the picture changes dramatically. Properly sealed in airtight containers and stored in cool, dry conditions, oats remain fully viable for 30 years or more. That places them in an elite category alongside white rice and lentils, the rare foods that can legitimately be called multi-decade survival staples. And within that category, oats bring a specific nutritional profile that the others don't fully cover. Rich in soluble fiber, meaningful quantities of iron and B vitamins, and decent protein for a grain. They are calorie-dense without being heavy, making them an outstanding morning meal when sustained energy throughout a demanding day is critical. And their versatility is genuinely impressive. Warm porridge, energy bars, soup thickener, no-cook trail mix combined with dried fruit and nuts. They work across a range of preparation methods that require varying levels of fuel and equipment. Important when both become constrained. Affordable in bulk, lightweight, zero refrigeration. And unlike many survival staples, oats are food you would genuinely choose to eat on any normal day, not just out of necessity. 30 years on a shelf, still delivering. If your emergency supply doesn't include a substantial quantity of oats, Fix that today. No. 6. Canned meats. When protein disappears. Here is something that should genuinely frighten you about a prolonged supply disruption. Fresh protein will be the first resource to collapse, completely and almost immediately. Refrigeration fails. Supply chains for meat and poultry are among the most complex and fragile in the entire food system. Hunting and fishing are not viable alternatives for the vast majority of the population. When fresh protein disappears, the question of what replaces it becomes urgent and non-negotiable. Canned meats, tuna, chicken, sardines, salmon, are the answer. Fully cooked, vacuum-sealed, heat-sterilized, and ready to consume the moment you open them. No preparation, no refrigeration, no waiting, no equipment beyond a can opener. The shelf life for most canned meats falls between 5 and 10 years. And well-stored cans frequently remain safe well beyond their printed dates. Nutritionally, the value is serious. High protein, calorie-dense. Sardines and salmon in particular are extraordinarily rich in omega-3 fatty acids, nutrients that support cardiovascular health, cognitive function, and inflammation management, all of which become more important, not less, when the body is operating under sustained physical and mental stress. And the culinary versatility is genuinely underrated. Canned chicken folds into a rice dish with no trace of its origins. Tuna works in almost any grain-based preparation. Sardines, once you commit to them, deliver more nutritional value per calorie than almost anything else on this list. These cans are not a compromise, they are a solution. Build a substantial supply of them before you are in a position where you desperately wish you had. Number 5. Cooking fats, oils, and ghee. The category nobody thinks about. This is the most dangerous gap in most people's emergency food plans. Not because fats are hard to store, not because they are expensive, but because almost no one includes them. And without them, a survival diet that looks complete on paper will quietly begin to fail you in ways you won't immediately understand. Your body cannot absorb vitamins A, D, E, or K without fat. These are fat-soluble vitamins. Their absorption is physiologically dependent on the presence of dietary fat. A diet of grains, legumes, and canned vegetables, however nutritionally impressive it looks on a label, will leave you deficient in these critical vitamins within weeks if it contains no fat. And beyond absorption, fat provides 9 calories per gram compared to 4 for protein or carbohydrates. In a context where caloric density matters enormously, that difference is not marginal. It is survival critical. Vegetable and olive oil stored in cool, dark conditions remain viable for 2 to 3 years. Ghee, clarified butter with the milk solids removed, significantly outperforms both. Its low moisture content and natural stability allow it to last far longer without refrigeration, and it handles high cooking temperatures without breaking down. It can also be used in any cooking method from sautéing to baking. This is the category that separates a plan that sustains you from one that merely keeps you alive until the deficiencies catch up with you. Fat is not optional in human nutrition, it is foundational. If you have not included substantial cooking fats in your emergency supply, your plan has a critical hole in it. Fill it now. If this is waking you up, like, comment, and subscribe. This information needs to reach more people. Don't keep it to yourself. Number 4. Freeze-dried and canned fruits. The morale factor. When fresh produce disappears, and it will disappear fast, within days of any serious supply disruption, the gap it leaves is larger and more psychologically damaging than most people predict. Fresh fruit is not just nutrition, it is color, flavor variety, natural sweetness, and a visceral reminder of normalcy. Its absence creates a specific kind of deprivation that goes well beyond physical hunger. Freeze-dried fruits, strawberries, blueberries, apples, our mangoes, are processed using a technique that removes nearly all moisture while preserving most of the original nutritional content and a remarkable amount of natural flavor. Stored properly, the shelf life reaches up to 25 years. Eat them directly from the bag, rehydrate them in water, fold them into oatmeal, or use them in baking. The vitamin C content of freeze-dried fruits, a critical nutrient that your body cannot produce or store in large quantities, is significantly preserved through the process. Canned fruits don't match that 25-year window, typically offering 3 to 5 years, but they are widely available, affordable, and nutritionally solid. A can of peaches or Pineapple chunks provides vitamin C, natural sugars for fast energy, and a flavor experience that is genuinely different from anything else in a long-term food supply. That word, different, deserves more weight than it typically receives. In a prolonged emergency, where every meal has started to feel identical, experiencing a genuinely different flavor is not a luxury. It is a morale intervention. And morale in a sustained crisis is as much a survival factor as calories. Do not leave this category out of your plan. Number 3, MREs, the complete meal in your pocket military ration packs. Meals ready to eat were designed for one of the most unforgiving scenarios imaginable. Feeding a soldier in an active combat environment with no preparation time, no cooking equipment, no clean water access, and no margin for error whatsoever. If they hold up to that, they will hold up to whatever you are facing. So each MRE is a fully self-contained meal inside a single durable pouch. An entree, a starch or vegetable side, a snack, condiments, a dessert, sometimes a beverage mix, and many include a flameless ration heater, a chemical heating element that warms the food using nothing but a small amount of water and the contents of the pouch itself. A hot meal in any conditions from any location with no external heat source. That is not a small technological achievement. Stored at moderate temperatures, MREs remain viable for 5 to 10 years. In cooler storage conditions, that window extends further. They are compact and portable, equally suited to an emergency grab bag or a long-term pantry shelf. The nutritional balance is intentionally engineered to meet the caloric and macronutrient demands of a human being operating under sustained physical and mental stress. Precisely the conditions you would be facing when you reach for one. When convenience, portability, nutritional completeness, and zero preparation utility all need to converge in a single item at the same time, nothing on this list